All right, let's head over now to a man I call the king of the class action in this province. Joey Zukran is a class action attorney specializing in consumer rights from LPC Avocats. Hi, Joey. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
What do you think about your new title, the king of the class action? Yay or nay?
I don't love it. I thank you for using it, but I'll no comment.
You'll pass. All right, no problem.
There's a lot of other great class action lawyers also in the province, but thank you for the compliment.
Very true, very true. But you do make quite a few appearances on our airwaves, and I got to say, oftentimes I'm full on behind some of the suits that you're bringing. Now let's take a look at one against major retailers in Quebec, including Dollarama, Metro, SAQ, and Rona. It's all about the plastic bags that are labeled as recyclable. Are these reusable ones they try and sell you, Joey? What's all this about?
So if you've ever walked, and I'll use Dollarama as the best example, anyone who's walked into one of the 1,400 Dollarama stores across Canada would have seen, displayed in front of those either the electronic cash or the automated cash, or in front of the teller, those big green bags that are indicated in green and white, recyclable and reusable. Mm-hmm. The problem is that they are not recyclable. While they may be reusable, like a box, your house is reusable, they're actually not recyclable. We accused and alleged that Dollarama was engaging in the illegal conduct of what is known as greenwashing, and of course false representations under the Consumer Protection Act, and the court agreed with us and authorized the class action last week.
So here's the thing, right? Like, I guess it hinges on that term recyclable, because I think there are a lot of things that technically are recyclable, but then at the end of the day you find out, well, in your jurisdiction, they're not going to be recycled. Is that what it comes down to? Like, on a technicality, do they have it? Well, listen, it can, theoretically, this can be recycled. Is that part of the sort of intricacies of this lawsuit?
Yeah, so that's, they tried to argue that, and my response was, theoretically I could go to the moon, but how many people are actually going to go to the moon in this lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of an absurd defense. The reality is the following. There was a publication made on Facebook by Tricentris, which is one of Quebec's, probably the second largest recycling facility in the province. They put a picture of the Dollarama bag that's advertised as recyclable and told the public, do not put these in your recycling bins. They are not recyclable in Quebec or in Canada, probably also nowhere else in North America. So it's not a question of, is it theoretically recyclable? Haha, cute, you win. No, these are not recyclable in Canada. Dollarama and the other defendants know it. At the SAC, we allege that the SAC also knows it, that they had actually looked into the matter and were told that they are not recyclable, but yet all these companies continue to indicate them as recyclable. Actually, Dollarama recently modified the bags. They removed the mention since the lawsuit was filed, which we consider an admission. Mm-hmm. But it's not recyclable anywhere in Quebec. The test is the following. If you can stretch it, then it's recyclable. And we were like 30 lawyers in the courtroom, and I took out that Dollarama bag, and I invited all of them to play tug of war with me to see if that Dollarama bag is stretchable, and nobody offered. The Dollarama bag, you can pull it, stretch it, try whatever you want. It doesn't move. It's rigid. And when it's rigid or solid, it goes in the recycling bin.
What is the material that they're using for these bags?
So that's interesting. So that's something that we're going to look at the merits. Obviously, they're going to present some evidence, some expertise as to what material it is. But I believe it's polypropylene 5 or a mixture of certain types of materials, plastics that combined cannot be put in the blue bins in Quebec, at least.
Okay, so what I want to get to here with Joey Zukran, class action attorney. He specializes in consumer rights over at LPC Avocats. He's got a new class action lawsuit against retailers in Quebec over quote-unquote recyclable bags. Now, Joey, what I'm thinking of is, where's the harm, right? So let's say they're charging you 25 cents for this bag. I don't know what they charge now. I went to one grocer and they charged me 40 cents recently. So whatever they're charging. But I was going to get that bag anyways. Even if I needed the bag in that moment, even if it's recyclable or not, I had to buy it. So what is the harm being done to consumers here? Because I imagine there has to be some harm for you to win a lawsuit here.
Absolutely. So one of the 3 criteria to win a lawsuit is to show a fault, which I think we easily show here, but then to show a prejudice or a harm, and then a causal link between the two. Insofar as our client situation, she alleges, and this is the case for many people who contacted us as well, is that when you when you advertise something as recyclable, you don't need a genius or a to perform the Supreme Court of Canada's credulous consumer test to say, well, what did the consumer think? Is it recyclable? And when you buy a bag and it's recyclable, well, what do you do with it? You put it in the recycling bin. And then next time you go, you buy another one. So you can't ignore the fact that Dollarama, the sack, which I think charges something like $1 or $2 a bag, are profiting from the sale of these bags. There's also a harm to the environment. Now, of course, the environment's not going to make a claim, but when you make such false and fraudulent claims that your bags are recyclable and they're not, this opens the door and exposes the defendants to punitive damages, which can be independent and autonomous from the actual harm that you're referring to. So it's a way for the court to say, look, you, assuming that you cannot prove harm, and I think we could prove harm, but assuming you can, the court can independently award punitive damages to prevent, deter, and punish merchants from using false claims that would otherwise have no significant impact financially on the average person paying 30 to 40 cents a bag, as you just mentioned.
Joey, can I ask you this? Isn't the bigger fish to fry here the government laws? And couldn't there be a class action lawsuit against the government? They've imposed these bags. California did so over a decade ago, and now we know there's actually more plastic bag waste in California because these bags are not reused as much as people said they would be reused, and then they end up in landfill as well. So isn't there some harm being done here by these regulations? And shouldn't that be the target over merchants who are just trying to deal with these regulations?
Well, respectfully, I disagree with that statement. I don't think the merchants are just trying to deal with them. I think in this case, we analyzed bags sold at many different stores and targeted about 5 or 6, found that there were about 5, 6, or 7 of the merchants that put recyclable. For example, if you go to Walmart sells a bag that looks and feels identical to the Dollarama bag, but you'll notice that they do not say anywhere that it's recyclable. So I think that certain of the defendants that we sued, so Dollarama, the SAC, Toys R Us, Costco is in there as well, Metro, these made a conscious choice to advertise themselves as selling recyclable bags, which we call greenwashing, and which were not true. They didn't have to put the word recyclable. They did to make themselves look like they are environmental friendly, green or whatnot, and they're not. So they made a choice, and now they have to pay the consequences.
So what are you hoping to get out of this? If I've spent 25 cents times a dozen in my life on these bags, are you asking to get all that money back? What are you asking for here?
So always the class action, you look at the case of the individual plaintiff, and then you see if you can apply certain presumptions in the law that apply on a collective basis. So in this case, the lead plaintiff is alleging that had she known they weren't recyclable, she would have never paid the price to Dollarama. So in this case, I believe it was something like $1.50 for 3 bags. So she's asking exactly that, the reimbursement of the bags. At the very least, they should not, these companies, their profits should be disgorged. So the profits made from the sale of bags using fraudulent representations should be paid back to the public. And third, as I mentioned earlier, an amount of punitive damages that would be paid per person who had purchased one of these bags under the false pretext.
Joe, any other similar law set anywhere in North America, anywhere around the world that you're leaning upon for this?
Yeah, so there were some precedents. There was the Keurig coffee caps. I don't know if you ever heard of that. The Competition Bureau had taken an action against them. It was settled. There was a class action filed in Quebec as well. I'm not sure of the status. I believe it was settled. There's a lot of bulletins by the Competition Bureau on the issue of greenwashing. And then it's just simple false representation case. Are the representations true to reality? Actually, the judge in her judgment mentioned, if it's as easy as the defendants say, then they should have just filed proof from one of these recycling facilities that they can recycle these bags, but they chose not to and have to live with the consequences of that strategic decision, and the case is now authorized to move forward.
Joey, good luck with the suit. Interested to see how this one plays out. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That is Joey Zukran right there, class action attorney, specializes in consumer rights from LPC Avocats.